Hello there, YouTubers. It's your old friend Mike. Actually, just old. We're not really that old of friends. Who cares? Anyhow, down here by the Rio, I'm gonna give you a little squirt around here. That camera. Okay, look. See, Mr. Sunshine. That's what's called the Oregon Mountains. Now, you gotta get a little fanciful here, please. Come on. The way this was explained to me, those raggedy finger point things you see looking up, it's granite. It's not a very good focus at all. And there's a lot of granite up in there. I want to say them are about, they might be, the top of that's up over 7,000 for sure, I think. It's not a tall set of mountains by any stretch, but it's the same fault line fracture that I grew up next to in Albuquerque. That's the real version up there, the Sandias and the Mazanos, but this is the same kind of heave. There must have been some tremendous stress in this area underground to cause that stuff to come flying up like that, because a lot of it already wore off. It used to be much taller, and you know, the topsoil and everything, the rain and all that good stuff. So you get it what's called an alluvial fan, and Cruces is basically built on that fan, and so water runs all down here toward the Rio. Who saw that one coming? Anyway, I've been thinking about a topic for these short talks, and I thought, well, you know, it's funny. It keeps coming back to me, and I keep never mentioning it. It keeps coming back to me, and I keep never mentioning it. But I have alluded to it, I think, in some of my other vids, but I never made a point of actually talking about it. It's sort of like, you'd almost have to have a kind of a, like a novelist's kind of idea. I don't know what kind of novel, and certainly we're not going back to those dreadful books with the magic, jump out of the bag thing. What's that called? Rapture? No. I don't mean that novelization of stuff, but trying to capture a bigger picture. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I love to try to step back as far as I can to capture the big picture. I grew up out here in New Mexico, and them hills were 28 miles that way, and that mountain's 46 miles that way. I like to be able to see distance like that. When you get out in the East Coast, or, well, anywhere. I was in Georgia in the military. It felt like I could never get outdoors. It's like everything's too close. Like trees everywhere. And anyway, straying from the topic again, aren't we, Mike? The topic is that it's like, okay, here you are. Let's say you're 26, or let's say you're 66, a year older than me, or whatever. If this really is the end of the age, if it is, and a lot of confidence that it is, but oops, I better zoom backwards. You're going to get seasick looking at that. Come on back. Okay, I'm at normal, I guess. It says 0.5. That if it really is the end of the age upon us almost, well, what were you doing during that time, Mike? You know, I mean, there'll be survivors in heaven, you know, your parents, your sisters, your brothers, whoever died before you, you know. Practically, let's face it, everyone died, except for the people who are still hanging on just now. But, in other words, there's a huge congregation of believers. And even us Presbyterians talk about an idea where there's a linkage between those saints who went before and us. In other words, there's only one covenant of grace. Abraham was saved by faith because he believed God, and it was accounted to him as righteousness. And the covenant blessings, all of them, there's one covenant of peace, one covenant the Lord has made with mankind. It has appeared in different, shall we say, costumes, but it's one covenant. And so anyway, that's why I'm a Presbyterian. The point is that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to give a very good kind of like blow by blow. You see those people who happen to be just right at an accident scene, and then the nosy reporter comes up and goes, parks the nosy reporter parks a microphone in somebody's face and, tell me, what did you see? What happened? Blow by blow. Please don't leave out a detail. And, a good witness for a big historical thing. Let's say you happen to be standing there and watching as the plane crashed into the Pentagon 9/11. If you'd actually seen it blow by blow, you're standing 200 feet away when the whole thing happened. That might be an interesting historical report. But, my report, if I was at the Pentagon, that'd be, well, I don't know, man. I was in the crapper, and all of a sudden I heard a boom. And then I noticed I couldn't breathe. In other words, yeah, okay. We know what happened. Mike wasn't paying attention again. So, if it really is the end of the age, and it seems to me almost like if you could think of the Hindenburg as an example, at one point Zeppelins were big biz. It was the future, man. People were going to get rich off of interoceanic Zeppelin travel. It was going to be the thing. It was over a century ago. Well, after the Hindenburg went down, and that was very suspicious, by the way, as well. I could get conspiracied up on that, I suppose. The traffic eventually died. The only remainders of it really is some historical stuff and stuff like the Goodyear blimp. But a blimp is not the same as a dirigible. Hey, look, I want you guys get a see of this here. Right through that little notch right there, right through that little crevasse, is where the big yellow guy is already showing. That's good. It looks about time for him or her to show up, out whether the sun is a him or a her. But besides all that, our world is essentially falling apart. The financial system is garbage. It's just a matter. It's like a dumpster fire. The fiat currency of the West is just collapsing. Well, this is going to have a few, I would say, minor repercussions here and there, don't you? The collapse of Western civilization, the loss of at least 1,000 years of Christianized, I didn't say it was Christian, Christianized law and tradition. Just things like, for instance, the right to free speech. You won't find that in the Bible, but you can deduce it from scriptural principles that God would indeed bless such things. Well, guess what? Karl Marx never would have thought of that. And his modern slave descendants are never going to think of it either. Klaus and company and Henry Kay, those guys are the worst, man. They're trying to set up what amounts to a kind of a blend between neo-fascist and the worst aspects, modern CCP stuff. What do you call it? Where they monitor your every single movement, and if you say something wrong on social media, boom. That crap isn't even worth building. It'd be like, hey, let's go. Never mind. I'm getting off the track. The point is that the topic that keeps coming back to me is that I never seem to address. It's weird because nobody ever seems to address it. It's a little bit like if we could, after the end, if we could have a group debriefing, all of the people who are alive during that weirdo episode down there, will you please get up and tell your story? Well, most of those stories would be pretty darn dull. It's sort of like, well, were you aware that it was possibly near the end of the age? Yeah, I knew in my mind. Did you take any steps whatsoever? Well, I tried to read the Bible here and there, or whatever. Did you notify any other persons that you believed it might be very near the end of the age? Well, I talked it over with my brother, and we had a beer. Actually, he doesn't drink. In other words, it's kind of like, wait a minute. this is even bigger than the wipeout at Noah's time. Noah's time was a mere global flood. This is a global decimation we're talking about here at the hand of the living God. Him coming to declare righteousness and to do justice with force. His enemies forever being cast. Something itches on the back of my head. I wonder if there's a bug landing back there, but I just noticed it seems like my scalp is itchy too much these lately. Kind of want to go out and buy a hairbrush and brush deep. Anyhow, the more I think about it, the itchier it gets, right? You were there, Grandpa. Well, actually, I'm not a grandpa. You were there, old dude. What did you see? What did you do? How did you prepare? And a lot of it's like, well, I went down to the Village Inn and had some eggs and stuff. And then I watched a YouTube video about the war in Ukraine and that crazy business with somebody having a upstart rebellion against Putin. And don't know exactly what to make of that, except, boy, I hadn't heard of these people before, that kind of stuff. It's Wagner. Who's Wagner? Never heard of him. And what are they, a bunch of mercenaries or something? I have no idea. Yeah, so Mr. Sunshine is trying to put my right eye out. And so it's real bright over there right now, and it isn't even all the way up. So I've walked probably, this is about 3/4 of a mile or more. And if I can walk 2 to 3 miles in the morning and 3 or 4 in the afternoon, well, actually, last night I didn't even leave the house till after 6. Too much the light. Anyway, what did you do, Mike? Did you reach out? Did you comfort anyone? Did you teach the scriptures? Did you, utter warnings to the governments of the world? No, not really. I kind of made a few YouTube videos. Did you see any of them? Yeah. Well, most of them I couldn't figure out what they were about. Well, that's because it was just a short talk, in this case at the Rio with an old guy. And we kind of are all over the map, topic-wise, I think. Don't you? Yeah, so think it over. I don't know how to say it. If you were on the Hindenburg the night before it torched, and you're coming across the ocean, nice trip. I mean, this is some good digs here. You got champagne over there, and there's some guy eating goose liver or some gross thing that they call, delicacies. This is a top drawer operation here, and yeah, look at that. The butler over there, he's wearing not only a necktie, but he's wearing a waistcoat as well. And whatever. Hey, Zeppelin passenger, did you even have a clue? Yeah, well, there was a little discussion among the folks. Really? What were you talking about? Well, I mean, what if this thing does go down? Of course, it can't go down because, the German engineering is so good on these Zeppelins. But yes, there was a little discomfort, and we kind of giggled it away. And then we pointed our fingers at each other and told each other to put on tinfoil hats, giggle, giggle, giggle. And we made nothing of it. I wish now that maybe we had considered it a little more seriously, something like that. I don't know exactly how to describe this. It's like an idea. Wait a minute. In the days prior to Noah, did anybody have a clue as to what was going to come down there? Like pretty quick, with violence, water out the proverbial wazoo. Did anyone see it coming? Well, Noah did. Noah heard the Lord, and he took steps and made provisions, and things changed in his life and his family's life. And he came out by the grace of God. Well, if anybody comes out of this one, it's got to be strictly speaking by the grace of God, because when the Almighty talks about stepping into this reality and burning it up, that's with a B and a U and an R and an N. Burn. and nobody can hear it, not even the Christians. You know, sometimes I go to church and I think, well, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I mean, shall we say, my perspective is not, I want to say, welcomed with open arms. You know, there's some Christians are more equal than others, I guess. But when you think about it, the church doesn't even want to hear about this. Church would really rather just, well, we've got our programs, and as we manage our programs, we try to remain relevant to the community. Relevant to the community, huh? You know how you become irrelevant, utterly irrelevant? Make it your goal to be relevant. Idiots, I'm dealing with. How can people be that blind? Hey, I'm going to look at a little foot stop over here. I might have walked far enough. I don't want to go crazy out here. I find it hard to believe that that equals 1/4 of a mile since I started. Oh, I know what it is. This marker, oh, you can't see it. I kicked it for you. This marker says 1/4 mile compared to, I don't know. I don't actually care. I've been walking about 30 minutes. I've probably gone a mile, a little more than that. I kind of a pretty slow walker, about 2.6 miles an hour. Heck, little old ladies walk faster than I do. But anyway, the point is that I want to think about it a little bit and see if I can kind of work it up, maybe through a series of these little videos. My idea is that it's like, well, wait a minute here. If we're really on the cusp, I mean, actually, historically, on the cusp of those days just prior to the return of Yahweh, in the person of Jesus Christ the righteous, coming with his, as is predicted, 10,000s of holy ones. Now that's going to be quite a show right there. I just think, you know, everyone's just kind of sleepwalking through this. Everyone's sort of vaguely aware. Yeah, I guess maybe that's stuff I should think about. I don't know. And I do the same thing. I mean, I'm not some special case. It's like nobody seems to understand. It's like a spirit of sleep has been cast on them. And I do remember something in the Bible about that. Maybe I should look that up. It's like, it's almost like when you're talking with somebody who's really, really out there on drugs. They're no longer really relating to the world around them, shall we say, accurately. Yes, they're relating, but someone who's really loaded to the gills on something, or badly sleep deprived, as an example. Yes, they're still interacting with the world around them, but they're missing everything. They're misinterpreting everything. They're not getting anything correct. However, they're getting everything in any case. Very strange. And so, as the world turns, the light comes on. And then when the light comes on, you got to stand up somewhere. Oh boy, I don't know why my scalp itches so much this morning. And when you got to stand up, essentially, what is the church going to say? What is the church going to say? She has worn out her welcome. She is unwelcome in the social and political discourse. She has nothing to say on social issues. And when a topic like these, as they call themselves, transgenders, I believe the more accurate word is perverts, come into little kids like kindergarten, really, come on, and want to entice them with their clever, funny lies. What does the church have to say on that? Well, the individual members of the church will say, not my kid, you don't. Either you get that weirdo out of that classroom or I'm taking my kid home. My child will not be brainwashed by you. This child will be taught by the mother and myself, or whatever. Well, how rare is that? It happens. It happens. I think the little bugs are starting to show up. I can feel my ears itching now. There's these little tiny bugs out here, a jillion of them. So what did you do, Mike, as the end of the age crept upon us with just, like a band with drums and horns and sirens and flashing beacons? The end of the world showed up. Everyone could see it 100 miles away. Everyone knew it. And yet no one put their finger on it and said, oh, wait, you mean the end of the world? Yeah, that one. Where dirt and everything burns up. Stars fall out of the sky. The mountains run away. The oceans are swept dry. Big deal. Yeah, it's a huge unmaking. There's a story in the Bible of creation. Well, think of this as the story of uncreation. However, this time the maker has got an agenda, and he's hot. I tell you what, he's furious. And the church just won't say it. You ever want to set off a stink bomb in Sunday school? You're an adult Sunday school class. I don't care what church you are. I guarantee you it'll work. You want to set off a stink bomb in there? If the discussion allows for it, and if your 2 bits are welcome, which mine are not, just toss into the fire there somewhere in the discussion about judgment or, the times we live in, or however the discussion is running, that he will come in uncreated fury to burn the elements themselves. The Apostle Peter seems to think. And this jives perfectly in with Isaiah, the teachings of our Lord. I mean, it's not like you have to be some kind of, Dick Tracy or Sherlock Holmes or something to find this in the Bible. That judgment is coming. It is the terrible day, the day of God's wrath, a day of darkness, a day of destruction at the hand of Yahweh. And what if we're close to that? And what if, as it came up and approached, you did not only nothing, but you made things worse? You spread the lie. You covered for those crooks. You explained away why this little sin isn't so bad after all. Whatever you did, I don't care. Whatever I did. The problem is all of us, me, everybody, nobody's getting this right. It's kind of like, no, there are no overs. There's no take two. No, you're walking in your life right now. Everything that happens to you is a once in a lifetime scenario. You got one opportunity to get it right. And let's face it, no one does. But he's gracious. And we can seek him after the fact and say, oh, my Father, I have erred again. And we can deal with him. And so I think, honestly, that best, perhaps the thing to do as the tide of history runs away with us and what used to be the United States becomes a big zero on a map. And other things happen too. Other powers are rising now. The U.S.'s day is over. Thank God for it. I never realized how deeply, deeply, deeply corrupt. No wonder foreigners hate this country. Oh, just selling multiple billions of all kind of heinous warfare. Hey, how about some uranium depleted ammo? Or depleted uranium, sorry. How about we sell you rockets? How about we sell you bombs? How about we sell you can build minefields and blow people to pieces? Where'd all that gear come from? Profiteers in the good old US of A. That's how we made our fortune. Treacherous. And so anyway, the USA is being swept away, and I say good riddance. But the point is, everything's just a once in a lifetime. Every bit of it. You look right now. A walker. Birds. Bugs. Not a cloud in the sky. Here comes Mr. Sunshine over there. This little scenario, this snapshot right here is not to be repeated ever again. Even if I came down every morning for the rest of my life and tried to duplicate it. There's a cat up in front of me. That cat won't be there. That walker off to the left won't be there. Everything you're involved in right now peace. It's a once in a reality, a once in a coherent fabric of is to ever be. It'll never happen just like this again. Treasure it, taste it, enjoy it, and thank God for it. So maybe I'm thinking, as the wheels are falling off here, maybe the thing to do is redouble yourself, or redouble myself, Mike. Get real with God. Knock it off with the religious bullshit, and quit trying to fake people out, make them think that you're somebody who got over, who used to sin, or something like that. That ghetto Christian thing ain't gonna fly. It's garbage. Heartless, gutless, and cruel. That's the way it is. Have you ever noticed? Those who are most afraid become those who are most cruel. I see another walker up here, and I'll probably say hello to this guy. Got a nice little white dog off to the side or something. Yeah, so you go out today and find a way where, set aside some time. What I'm going to do after this walk is I'm going to put my feet in the water. Boy, it feels so good. Just rest for 10 minutes. Just rest in His presence and tell Him, hey, guess what, Pops? Holy Father, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's face it. I need help. I need direction. And if you can't or won't provide it, if somehow Jesus is insufficient or He doesn't care enough to help me, well, then I don't have a plan B. I'll do without, and I'll die. But my life is in your hands, sir. You do with me what you need to. I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how to do it right. You know everything. So teach us today those little lessons that we're able to capture, the ones we're able to remember and apply. We're not going to change overnight. I'm not going to turn into some kind of glowing angel or something like that. Look at this dog. Oh, you got to see this guy. He's a cute little rascal. Hey, good morning. Just out doing a YouTube video. I wanted to get a picture of your dog. That's one good looking animal there. Hey there, Fred. What's this dog's name?
Dixie.
Hey, dog. Want to smell? Yeah. You guys have a good walk. I like dogs. Well, dogs that aren't psychotic. I think pit bulls need a bullet between the eyes. But anyhow, you guys, I just don't know exactly how to say it, but it's just this topic, this ill-arranged topic in my mind that just may have to deal with this again in the future through other, maybe, talk it over with friends or something, But it just seems so strange to me. If you knew beforehand what the fire was going to be like in San Francisco that just about took the city down, I think over a century ago, and you're walking through the San Francisco before the fire, but you're aware that the fire is coming. You look at the extant San Francisco, and it makes you think two times, I think. That's the way I want to say it. I don't mean to be double-minded. No, I don't mean that. It makes you think two times how precious things are. How precious it is to see a mom walking her little girl, little toddler around, holding him up by one hand or somewhere. How precious it is to see a dad sit down with his kids and teach them how to fish or something like that. I mean, that's what reality is about. Interaction with living people who are preferably sane. Yeah, this guy just leashed up down here. I don't think this little black guy, he looks old to me. I'm going to ask him how old his dog is. Sometimes people will talk a little bit. They won't talk about themselves, but they'll talk about their dog. Oh my gosh. Hey, how are you today?
Dogs don't bother you, do they?
Oh, I like dogs.
Okay.
I'm guessing this one has got a lot of gray. This is an old guy.
Yeah, she's 12.
Hey, 12er, how are you? Want to smell? Yeah.
I just found out she's part Blue Heeler. I'd always tried to figure out what kind of breed she was, and I ran into an old guy in a park that had one looked almost just like her.
How about that?
Because I could never figure out why she's the highest energy dog I've ever been around, and that's what they're known for.
Interesting. Now, a dog about that size, I like dogs that big because they're big enough that, you know, you can play with them and they can do stuff for you. I don't like them little micro dogs, the little psychotic ones that are bouncing around all the time.
I'll tell you, as I get older, I appreciate them more and more. It may be because it's getting to the point for me, the next dog I get, which is probably a few years away because she's 12,
Yeah.
is probably going to have to be a little smaller than her.
Well,
Just because I have trouble, but I know what you mean. They're sort of,
they're
sort of just
mentally,
annoying.
they're not there.
I think some of that is the damn
Inbreeding shit.
Yeah, because she's probably a mix of 4 or 5 different things, and I never buy one. I just go get them from rescues.
Well, you know, all that breed stuff to me is just about 14 pounds of bullshit. I mean, a good dog is a good dog. That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But then some of them breeds, they were bred for a certain thing. We're going to root out animals, or we're going to chase down birds, or whatever. So I mean, there is something to it. But
and they just get so, you know, they're so far inbred that they end up with illnesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Hey, have a good day.
You too. Yes, sir. Well, that was an interesting little interlude. That may be one of the first Now, I never told them I was filming. Maybe that's the way to get people on film. Hey, I may have found a sneaky way to get people onto my videos. Just don't mention I'm making one. Because I do like talking with strangers occasionally. I mean, it's not every 5 seconds. But the thing is that if you knew before the great San Francisco fire what was coming, I mean, you really knew this sucker's coming down. I mean, at that time, there was almost exclusively wooden buildings. So you start a fire in there and watch out, baby. And there was a great fire in Chicago as well. I think that was in the 1890s when I'm making that part up. Anyway, it was over a century ago. And so I'm just trying to get my mind wrapped around this. That before the fire and after the fire, do you sense the difference? Before and after the fire comes. Well, before the fire, it looked like this. Green, there was a beautiful river floating beside me. Actually, the river was... I guess the river was flowing, not floating. That would be weird for a river to float, but I guess that's where clouds come in. There's an astonishing amount of water inside any given cloud. And you know, the thing is, I'm just thinking, we're coming up on tech times now that are just unprecedented. What was happening before the end, Dad? Well, I'm not anybody's dad. What happened, old man? Well, as an example, you know, how many tribesmen in arid areas have had to learn some serious water conservation issues in the, you know, the Navajo or the Hopi over here. Over in the Mideast, you got all kinds of tribesmen who've had to deal with what's it like living at or in a desert. Well, now they've got tech out there. You can just plug this thing into a wall, whatever it is, and it sucks water right out of the atmosphere. And it doesn't matter how moist the air is, you'll get good drinking water. What? You guys had that? Yeah, but boy, you can't believe the extension cord. Just kidding. But in other words, there's so many things coming up online. Elon Musk has got his Neuralink thing. They're already doing experiments to jack directly into the human brain. I'm thinking to myself, this cannot possibly end well. However, there are benefits that could be had. You know, someone's lost control of their legs due to an accident. In fact, someone lost control of their eyes. I mean, at some point, they may be able to start adding on, shall we say, kind of, you know, claptrap looking repair parts, and maybe get people back online, you know, so they can walk and talk and deal with folks day by day instead of having to be bedridden. I mean, there might be good things coming out of this Neuralink. I don't know. But that's not why it was ultimately invented. Ultimately, it was not invented as a prosthesis thing, kind of like a, you know, a prosthetic leg. That's not why that was invented. The link was because Musk is afraid of the baud rate differential. And I understand what he's saying, I think. But it's not my job to keep up with the damn robot anyhow. It's its job to do what I want. That's what they've lost track of. And then they keep trying to imbue this AI with a persona, a personality, really an entity, a living person. That's what they keep hinting at and wagging their finger and, you know, boom, boom, boom. But the key would be a program, whether it qualifies as alive or not, I don't care. as long as the thing can essentially upgrade its own programs, rewrite and improve and expand its own programs, that's all they really need, man. Whether they call that thing a person or not, I don't care. That's what they're trying to build. Well, how are humans going to deal with that? Not well. And so Musk is trying to boost our baud rate so that however slow our biological brains are in comparison, that we could, so to speak, more keep up. And I think that is what we used to call hopeless. But that's what they're doing. What was happening before the fire, Grandpa? What was happening before? You saw both sides, before it was burned and after the destruction. Before it was burned, some of them knew it was coming, right? Yes, some knew. Did all know? I think to some degree, yes. They were at least vaguely aware. They could not testify in a court of law that they had no knowledge whatsoever. So the knowledge was there, but the action wasn't, and the behavior wasn't, and the words were inappropriate, and the actions were ineffective. We waltzed right into the great catastrophe. We kind of just were sleepwalking, and we walked right into the meat grinder. Something like that. We didn't see it coming, and we knew it was coming, and we were afraid to admit that we knew. Something like that. Anyway, it has several layers to it, and so maybe we can delve into this sometime in the future. Anyway, I'm going to make it on down to the VI, have me a little breakfast. They got a nice deal where 4 choices, and one of those choices I can tell you right now is going to be fruit, the fruit bowl. It's nothing great, it's nothing to write home about, but fruit for breakfast, that's what America's all about. Or on her better days, that's what she was about. Who knows what she's about now, probably pimping for the devil or something. The breakfast deal is going to be a nice one, but I got to get this in my mind somehow. What did you know, and when did you know it? We will be asked. Think it over. You guys have a good day, and remember Jesus. He knows what's going on, and he even likes you. Hey, how are you today? I like that mask. That's a nice idea. She's got this thing. It's not a beekeeper's thing. It looks almost like a old school, I don't know what women used to wear over their faces. How are you today? It's like you're getting in touch with the earth.
Gotta keep those.
Sure, let me just show you one thing. I'm making a video right here. I'm not going to ask you to be in it, but anyway, I just want to show you. I made this thing the other day. Yeah, there's this stuff on YouTube, DIY, do it yourself, grounding your shoes, and I didn't like any of their designs. But I've done a little reading, and this grounding stuff, it's good for you, good for your blood pressure, kind of calms you down. And they say that one of the big things that changed about 70 years ago, and I remember when I was a boy, in the 60s, my dad's shoes were like yours. They all had leather soles. He was grounded. If you go to rubber soles, you're no longer, and there's this weird voltage that they can measure it with a voltmeter. Say you're not grounded, you're coding at 3.4 volts. Just step barefoot on the ground, and it's a fraction of 1 volt. So you're building a positive valence in your body that doesn't belong there. And our ancestors knew nothing of it. It's only a modern deal. Yeah. And so I thought, well, I'm going to ground. And I just think it feels better, you know. Yeah. But at the end of the walk, here's the clue. There's a nice little spot over there, and I just sit my feet right in the water, pop them in the mud, just kind of wiggle my toes and stuff. That's a nice way to end a walk.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a good day.
Oh, you too.
Smart-looking dog there. I like that face. Hey, look at that. That's 2 people I talked to in one day. How about that? And I like talking to people. Actually, I like talking at them. I'm not sure what that was. I guess I'm this one-man evangelism team for Let's Ground It. Oh, well, I guess I can make worse errors. Anyway, so what was I doing before the end came on? Was I aware? Yes, I was. What did I do about it? I started becoming a traveling salesman for grounding. But I think it's important because it has spiritual aspects as well. Be grounded in the Word of God. Be grounded in truth. Be grounded in Christ and His holy Spirit. Be grounded in love, my brothers, and make it your purpose to serve one another in ways which honor our Father and cause rejoicing among the brethren. All kinds of good advice has to do with ground. Ground. My little brother's an electrician. Maybe I'll ask him what a ground is, because I don't even honestly know. Somehow there's a voltage leak, and I've become high voltage pos, and I need to go more neg. I need to stand on earth. Anyway, where else would you stand? Because essentially when the Maker comes, get this, he's taking away the ground. The enemy has nowhere to stand after that. In fact, he has nowhere to stand right now either. He's going down. But if you're in Jesus, you're secure, and it isn't about how hard you tried or how much you sweat or cried. But the more that you're with him, the more that you'll sense that deep grief he carries in his soul, and you'll learn to grieve. And the heart of the wise is in the house of sorrow, and the mind of the fool is in the house of comedy, or something like that. Kind of a twisted version of something in the Bible. But the point is that as you try to understand what's happening, and how could it be that the whole world's falling apart and nobody even notices, or do they? Or is anyone doing anything about this? If you're like me, it's those kind of thoughts that bounce around in my thought. And, if you have thoughts or whatever and you want to add a comment, well, who knows? Maybe somebody might watch this video someday. God be blessed and God be thanked. He's way ahead of us and he's behind. He walks with us and teaches us his way, for he is good. You be good too. Bye-bye.